Welcome to today's Executive Roundtable. I'm Maricela Herrera. I'm the CEO of Ellevate Network, and very happy to be here today with y'all. We have a small group, I think, this week. Summer months tend to do this. I'm so excited today that we have Paulette Evans as our speaker because of many reasons. A, she's great. We haven't met her. She's amazing. She is the president of our North Carolina Triangle chapter. And fun fact, Paulette was guest number 1 at the Rising Leaders Roundtable when it first launched a couple of years ago. So all great things. But I'm going to pass it over to you. I know we have very short time, and if we have a small group, maybe instead of breakouts, up to you all what you think. I put it out there. We could do just one big breakout here, pause the recording, get to chatting, and go from there.
Absolutely. And for sure, and I know I'm going to mess up your name. Yin? Is that right?
Yeah. Yin.
I got it right. I met her at the New York Ellevate meeting. This was back in June. I happened to be in town, and I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to go.
I'm like, why didn't I know you were in town?
Yeah, I was at Deb's event. Yeah. At what is the place? The Luminary. It was awesome. Oh my God, it was so much fun. And so I met Yin there for the first time, and I enjoyed her. So if you can share my slides, that would be great. And I cannot not mention that Maricela is our brand new CEO of Ellevate Network. So I think she just kind of buried that lead because she's so modest. But yes, that part is huge. And so I'm excited to work with you. I'm very, very happy for you. Christy was amazing. And I know she is doing her new adventure or whatever it is. But yeah, just amazing leadership. I've always had and experienced amazing leadership at the HQ level. So I'm just extremely excited for you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I saw Christy actually last week. She said hi to everyone at the table. But yeah, very excited for what's next.
Yes. All right. So if we can share my slides, I will get started. And let me know if I have to share on my side. I don't mind doing that. Just let me know. And Pam, thank you for coming in from Dubai. I appreciate that. The very long distance connection.
It is, but honestly, this is great because it's only 9 o'clock at night for me.
Good.
Every week. The Entrepreneurs Roundtable for me every week happens at midnight my time.
Yeah, that's harder for sure. That's 4 p.m. our time. So yeah.
Yeah,
that was a little more challenging.
I always love seeing people from everywhere in these roundtables.
Yeah,
so great.
Paulette, sorry, I'm having a little trouble with opening it in slides.
I'm sorry, what is slides?
Oh, in Google Slides.
Oh, yeah, because it's in PowerPoint, technically. I didn't create it in Google Slides. So that may be part of it.
Maybe, but I have you as a co-host.
Okay,
so
yeah, I can share it. Absolutely, no problem. Let me just go back and find where I put it. All right.
Oh, technology.
Oh, yeah. So we didn't allow a lot of grace before COVID. Definitely figured out how to allow grace during COVID.
Yeah.
All right, so I am sharing my screen. Please let me know when you see the presentation.
We're good.
Okay, and then you don't see the panel of people on the side on my side. Okay, perfect. I like to keep that open in case I can see reactions or whatever, but I didn't want it to interfere. Okay, so again, I am Dr. Paulette J. Evans, and I'm going to talk today a little bit about new norms for the non-traditional situation we have going on in terms of teams and teamwork. The agenda, I'm going to do a brief intro of myself. I'm going to cover the 5 stages of team development, 3 new norms for a new era. Then we're going to do 1 big breakout we just discussed, and then some sharing, and then I'll summarize and close. So I am the founder and CEO of Evans Efficiency Experts. We literally help people, mostly busy women, convert chaos to calm before they burn out. We focus on methodologies and techniques and tools that are used for process improvement, streamlining, et cetera. And I do this across any and every industry. I literally can look at any situation and streamline it. Like this is my gift, also a curse, because I can't turn it off. So a day in the grocery store with me is extra fun because I'm going there and working through my list, but then I'm also like, why is this here? Can I talk to a manager? Just real quick, nothing big. I just need to talk to her or him. So it's always a whole situation. I think that they're looking at the cameras and like, oh my God, she's here. She's visiting today. So let's get ourselves together because she's going to have a ton of questions. But I enjoy it. And it's always, again, from a helpful place, always. I am a lover of travel, cooking, spa time, and my hubby of 18 years, who is very patient because as you can tell already, I'm a lot. So he is very, very patient. And today I'm going to teach how to increase and maintain your teams in a semi-COVID era, how to promote effectiveness through teamwork across all teams, and how to determine an effective path forward. Because again, we keep thinking, initially, I think we all thought it was going to be a 2-week situation. You know, we're going home, we're going to hang out for a little bit, and then we're going to be right back. And so 2 years later, we're still trying to figure out how to make this thing work. And some of it is COVID based, some of it isn't. Some things we didn't practice prior to COVID, and now we do practice. So it is a give and take kind of situation. So just trying to figure out some best practices to make sure that we can be our most productive selves at work, at home, and everywhere in between. So in terms of team development, and these are not, this isn't new, this isn't anything I made up. This is just our normal team development stages. So forming, that's how we're getting to know each other. With COVID, it's a little bit different because some of our teams we haven't met in person, like ever. I mean, my last corporate job, I didn't meet my team. I think I met them once, but I started my role via COVID, in COVID via Teams. So it wasn't a situation where I ever met them in person. So we have to figure out how to get to know each other better in terms of being remote, because more times than likely, we are going to meet our teams for that initial time remotely. Storming is when we're trying to figure out each other's personalities. I mean, we are figuring out personalities in person is a different conversation, a different situation than personalities via team or Zoom. I mean, it's just not the same. You can't pick up on some subtle things. You can't read body language all the time because you're looking at them from the neck up. It's just a very different situation. And if you're very observant, you've realized how when you're in the room to read somebody's feedback and what they're doing and how they're feeling. And maybe they're a little bit standoffish and all of that. You can't really do that. And then you also can't force somebody to put on their camera. So that's another thing. So you really can't figure out a person's personality the way you used to. So it's figuring out how to just, again, and this is what I'm reviewing right now is just things you need to keep in mind as you're figuring out how to work with your teams. Norming is when we are all together, we're getting past any difficulties, we're getting past any conflicts in terms of personalities or work style, conversations, words, tone, all of those things. We're getting past that, trying to figure out how to move forward together. And then performing is when we are really there. We are firing on all cylinders. We are ready to go. We are excited. We are happy to be teammates because you have the situations where you're in a team because you're forced to be. Like I'm paid to be in this team. I'm at this job and I get a paycheck every day. So I'm forced to be in this team. And so I'm doing what I need to do. Versus I enjoy my team. We are working together. We are doing all the things. Everybody kind of works together. We're cohesive, all these things. And then adjourning, of course, is when we are finished with whatever situation, project, et cetera. And with COVID, we have to document how we're going to work forward in terms of emergency response standards. Now that, again, something we didn't have in place. No one thought COVID was ever going to happen. No one thought of COVID until it showed up. And so some places or some teams, some organizations didn't have an emergency response program or SOP in place. So at the end of normal team development stages, when you just kind of disperse, one thing you have to keep in mind right now is, how did we do this? How did we get this project to work? How did we get this to work out? We need to document things that took place. You know, were we hybrid in terms of meetings? Were we all virtual? And how did that work? What standards did we put in place, et cetera? So again, team development stages, none of those have changed: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. But thinking about it in the semi-COVID era, that has to change in terms of your mindset. You have to figure out how you're going to be, you know, in that space, but also thinking of COVID, thinking of the next pandemic, whatever that may be. Hopefully, dear God, there isn't another one. But again, you can't plan for it. You can't predict it, better yet stated, but you can plan for it. So just figuring out what you need to do in terms of getting your teams to get through these stages productively every time, because these are the normal stages. Any kind of new team that's forming and getting together, all of this is going to always happen. It just is. So just making sure you can get through these 5 stages in an effective manner is what I wanted to share. So in terms of new norms for the new era. So right now we have people that are 100% remote. We have people who are 50-50, you know, in the office, out of the office. And then we have people that are all the way in the office. And it just depends on your work, your organization, what they are requiring at the time. So things that I wanted to touch on, things that are helpful in terms of best practices in either of those 3 situations. So in terms of being 100% remote, everybody knows, it took a lot to get to that point when we had to do it. Right now, it's kind of optional, depending on who you work for, where you work, et cetera. So in terms of being 100% remote, in order to be your most effective self, 1, be visible. So that's just showing up in case you can't show up in person. Again, if you're 100% remote, showing up in other ways. So for your Outlook calendar or whatever calendar tool you use for your organization, adding your PTO, your breaks, any project focus time, make sure those things are very visible on your calendar. Before COVID, years before COVID, I would block off Monday and Friday, like literally the entire day. So in my mind, I'm like, I need all of Monday to get ready for this week. And I need Friday to recoup from this week and actually get some things done and start planning. Because I've been in meetings all day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So again, if I'm meeting, when am I working? So I have to block off Friday so I can get work done. And then people are like, oh, I can't do that. I'm like, no, you can. You really can. And when someone's puts a meeting out there and you have time blocked, decline. And it didn't matter who sent the meeting to me. Said, no, I have something scheduled here. Can we meet a different time? You have to own your availability in order to be productive. And then show availability on Teams, Yabba, whatever tool you use or tool that's used in your organization for conversations and communication. So, you know, GChat is kind of the Google version of it, but show your availability. If you're busy, mark yourself as busy. If you're out or you're on a break, mark yourself as not available or away. Just again, being visible. You can be visible in person, but there are tons of tools to be visible when you're not in person. So just use those effectively. 2, be responsive. Again, when you're working, block out anything that's distracting you. I turn off my notifications. I walk away from my phone. My phone typically goes to do not disturb from 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. every day. And that's including the weekend because I need my downtime. And when it's on do not disturb, nothing comes through. No texts, no phone calls, no notifications, nothing. So again, same applies during the day. If you need to put your phone on do not disturb for 4 hours so you can get some project work done, do that. Again, it's okay. Whatever is happening is still going to be there. And this is what I tell people about time. 4 hours are going to pass regardless. So at the end of the 4 hours, did you accomplish what you needed to do? Did you check off your to-do list or didn't you? The 4 hours are going to pass either way. So again, make the most of it. Get the things you need done. And then provide realistic response times. When you're at work, if it's going to take you an hour to get back to somebody on something, then just tell them that up front. Don't just not respond, because then they'll just keep pinging you and emailing and doing all these things. And you, again, distraction. So provide realistic response time so people know and what to expect from you when you are deep into work mode, or when you're, again, in between that 8 a.m. or 5 p.m., whatever your work schedule is for that day. How are you showing up during that time, and when are you going to get back to them? If it's going to be the next day, then tell them that up front. And then 3, be patient. Again, in these times, which were unprecedented, we've practiced a lot of grace. So we just need to keep doing that, because we're not on the other side of it 100%. We're still kind of in that, 1 foot out, 1 foot in situation. So you don't know what someone else has going on. We always talk about walking a mile in someone's shoes. We have to practice that now, literally every day, every minute, every hour, because we just don't know what someone else has going on. And then any wait time, again, if someone is busy and they can't get back to you, use that time to do other things. Using your time wisely during this situation is a huge win. Because again, you may have 5 minutes extra time, you may have 3 hours extra time. Whatever that time is, use it wisely. Get something else done. Check something off your list that's due tomorrow. Get it out the way, work ahead. And I'm always in work ahead mode. So I'm checking off things a week or 2 in advance, just because I can't, maybe it was Maricela or Wee-Yin, where this was due. They were like, you have this many days to get it out. And I think I replied back and I said, okay, cool, that works. And I think something canceled in my calendar that evening. And I was like, let me just knock this out real quick. So I ended up replying back on the same message. I was like, okay, yeah, I got some time back. So I just wanted to get this out of the way. So it wasn't due for a week or 2, but I was like, just go ahead and get it done. Check it off the list. You can move on to other things. All right, so if you're 100% on site, again, very different from 100% remote. First, determine routines. Whatever the routines are, they are different. Pre-COVID routines and now semi-COVID routines are very different from each other. So I tell people to share your schedule and limitations with leaders as soon as you know it. As soon as you know and understand, if I have to drop my child off at 8 a.m., I can't be in the office at 8 a.m. So can I start my workday at 9 a.m.? And just have those conversations up front. So there are expectations and the limitations are known. So someone isn't walking by your desk or your cube or whatever at 8:30 saying, oh God, Paulette's not here. What's going on? Making notes. I already had this conversation. I come in at 9 because of my family obligations. And again, because of the grace, more times than not, those things are more accepted now than they were pre-COVID. And then aim to work consistent hours. So if you're coming in at 9, even if I have my child and I have to drop her or him off at 9 on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm just going to sell that across the board every day just to make it consistent. I'm going to work 9 to 6. So just in case something pops up on Tuesday or Thursday, I don't have to then go back and have another conversation, have another renegotiation about time. Just try to keep things consistent. If you always have to leave your desk at 12 and come back at 1:30 because of a family obligation, then set that. So every day I'm in the office 7:30 to 5 because I need an hour and a half during lunch to take care of things. That's going to be every day. And so again, being consistent with those hours, that is also very helpful with the routine determination. Second, define boundaries. So leaving the workspace for breaks is key. Oh my goodness. I don't know how many lunches, dinners even, I've worked through when I was in corporate. I mean, if I wasn't away from my computer, I was working. And that was me scarfing down something or just grabbing something real quick. If I'm sitting there in front of that computer, I am going to be working more times than not because I just can't turn it off. And so the way to turn it off is to walk away. So if you can leave your workspace for your breaks, do that. Because again, that sets a unspoken boundary. If I'm not sitting there, I am unavailable. That equates immediately. I'm doing something, I'm walking outside, I'm taking my lunch in the break room, I'm in my car, just breathing, whatever it is. If I'm not sitting there, that means I'm not available. So just give me a minute, I will be back. And then the project focus time. Like I talked about blocking off Monday and Friday, I would block off 4-hour blocks of time on any day of the week when I needed to just focus on getting my job done, getting a project done, getting project deliverables finished. Blocking out time in your calendar or on your phone or whatever is extremely beneficial. It is the best thing I can share today. It is what makes me the most productive in my life. And I am productive every day because I block off time, I set boundaries, and I don't make any excuses. I don't give any exceptions. It doesn't matter who you are. The answer is no during that time period, because I have got to prioritize my time, myself, my to-do list. and get things done. And then documenting milestones. So the one thing we don't realize is that we are constantly doing, we're constantly achieving, we're constantly checking things off, solving problems, all these things. And what we don't realize is all of this matters at the end of the day, at the end of the year, whatever your review period is. Tracking accomplishments and your successes is key, because when you need to present and share in front of your boss or the boss's boss, being able to tell them, hey, I did all these things, that is important. And it's not bragging, it's not any of that. It's just saying, hey, so, 6 months passed and I did these things. And I just want you to know that. I want to make sure you understand what I do every day when I show up here. Because if we're not documenting it, no one else is. And then that's how we realize quickly that no one knows what I do here. And then I become dispensable. And we don't want that to happen. So tracking what you do and achieve every day is very, very crucial. If you want to keep it in a Word document, Excel, whatever, any tool, just make sure you're monitoring and tracking down the things that you do every day and you accomplish. And then understand that we are a team, but there are things I do by myself. So as an individual, I've done these things. And specifying that is also key, because a team is a team, and that's fine. But certain times a team doesn't do the heavy lifting. I did the heavy lifting and I shared with the team, or I presented to the team, reported out to the team. Again, the teamwork is fine, but the stuff that Paulette does as an individual that contributes to that team, you're going to know that, because I'm going to make all my notes and keep all my receipts, as they say nowadays. I'm keeping all those things because I need you to understand what it is I bring to the table. The team is fine, but as Paulette, I show up and I do all these things as an individual that help the team be the team. So again, monitoring all those things, especially when you're on site, because again, everybody's just moving and shaking, things get lost. So you have to make sure you're advocating for yourself at all times. And then the 50-50 model. Now that one is by far the hardest. It's again, a split. You have 5 days in a week, so it's not a true split anyway to begin with, because you can't, or you can split a day in half if you want to go in from 8 to 12 or whatever. But more times than likely, it's going to be I'm in the office 2 days, I'm at home 3 days. I'm in the office 3 days, I'm at home 2 days. And it just kind of alternates week to week. So the first thing is building trust. Now that, because again, some leaders, and this is pre-COVID for sure, that mindset that if you're not sitting here, then you're not working. So getting past that and helping them get past that, providing weekly updates to whoever your leader is. This is what I've done. You saw me here these 3 days. Over the 2 days, I did these things, just FYI. All these things have been accomplished. My goal for the week was this, I did this, etc. And then project documentation with your teams and leaders. That's, again, we have tons of tools, using your tools wisely. We have SharePoint, we have Google Drive, we have all these things where we can share documents and information with a group. So again, using those things, sharing the documentation, and so they see that you've been in there, 3 times this week, you were in there all day on Thursday when you're working from home because you were making updates. It tracks what you're doing automatically. So again, if anyone has any idea or thoughts about what you're doing at home when you're not sitting in front of them, they can go back and look at everything that you've done. So again, it's just a matter of, again, building the trust, but also making sure you're documenting and you have proof of what you're doing, just in case someone is untrustworthy, because they've, for 40 years, they've worked at this company and they've worked in corporate or whatever, and they've only known that if you're working, you're sitting in your seat and I can see you. So it's a different way to think nowadays. And so this is, again, a way to help them understand what you're doing and help build that trust. Now, 2, building independence. So again, if you set up a schedule, make sure you stick to it. That part is very important. You can't say, okay, yes, I'm available from 9 to 5. I'm working at home today. And then you're disappearing for 2 or 3 hours during that time period. And people are calling or emailing and you're not responding. So again, you're building independence, but you're also showing up like you're supposed to, because that's what is necessary to build the independence. So making sure you're sticking to what you're supposed to be doing, showing up when you're supposed to be, again, marking that calendar, but the times when you're supposed to be on, you're on. And then setting your goals and monitoring progress is just a way of life in general. I mean, you have to, in order to continue growing, doing what you do, you have to always have a goal and monitor your progress. Otherwise, you're kind of just hanging out, is what I say. One of my things is, if there's a meeting and no agenda, then we're just having conversations. I mean, we're literally just hanging out having conversations. So it's a very fine line, but it is black and white. You're working on something or you're not. So setting goals for yourself and monitoring that progress is very key. And then building inclusivity. So the thing with the hybrid model, and my husband, he's now, I think, 3 days in, 2 days out of the office. So first, at the beginning of that, they talked a lot about, I think his team has to be 10 people. They talked about the day that everybody would be in the office. And I think that's Wednesday. So that's a day when everybody's on site, everybody can do things, they can schedule team building activities, they can have their team huddles, have meetings, have any kind of conversations and check off points where they really want to just talk in person as opposed to on Teams or on Zoom or whatever. So building that in person up front is very helpful, because then everybody knows we show up Wednesday, we're going to do all these things in terms of being a team, sitting together in the same space, in the same room, and we're going to get a lot of things done. I'm going to save something on Monday. If I have a question for, John, I'm going to wait until Wednesday when I see him in person, because it may be a conversation that leads to 5 other questions. And that's far easier to do in person than back and forth on email. And then he can also understand I'm asking questions from a place, again, of concern or curiosity, not judgment. Because in email, all of that gets lost. You can't read any of those things. So when you're in person, it's just easier to read body language and feedback and all those things. All right, so in terms of our big breakout session, so I had it set up so you can choose one of the 2 questions, because everybody's in a different space. So going back to the 5 stages of development, is your team in a space that's not performing? And if that's the case, what will it take to get you to performing based on some of the things I shared? Or if you're already in performing, awesome. What is one of the new norms that they're excelling at? Again, in terms of the 3 I reviewed for each of the 3 scenarios, hybrid, in-person, or completely on-site, and what's one they can improve upon? Like what's something that they really aren't doing well based on everything I shared? So I will stop talking for a second. And I'm going to fast forward a little bit because it's helpful. These are the questions, but in the summary, I have everything kind of listed together. So I figured it'd be better to have this on the page and on the screen so you all can kind of think through the questions. So again, if you're not in a performing state or stage within your team, where are you and how can you get to performing? Or flip side, which of the new norms are you doing really, really well? And which one do you really need to work on? And you want to take back some info and some knowledge and some insight to your team to get them to that space and to that place.